Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. A house divided cannot stand. There is some rendition of this in 3 Gospels, so Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And what that's really saying is that if there's discord in your team, if there is fighting or undermining, or people are not working well together, that is going to be the failure of your business. And it might not be total and complete failure, but are you really living up to the potential that you could? Are you doing the business that you should be doing? Are you impacting the people that you should be impacting? Any kind of conflict on a team, and I'm talking negative conflict here because I'm going to talk about both today. But this negative conflict, this discord of tearing people apart is so incredibly damaging, not just to the output of the team, but it's bringing everybody down. It's creating conflict within people, and it's actually hurting their home life too. Today, I'm going to talk about what this kind of conflict, what this bad conflict can do to your team and why it's so terrible and what you can do about it. I'll also give you some tips on how to recognize it within yourself and your conflict or your team as well. So I have been pretty fired up about this just in the last few weeks. For a long time, but in the last couple of weeks, especially, I just feel like what's going on in the news, what's going on in Christian circles. This may not feel like it applies as I'm bringing a lot of faith into it, but this is the tools of the devil. This is the tool of war. Like, think about war. Let's think about that. So wars happen. But a way to win the war, and why World War II became so difficult for the Germans, is because they were fighting a war on 2 fronts. They had the East and the West, and they had to divide, and then they eventually fell. This division is a tactic to be utilized, and if you're doing it on your own, if you are creating a divide in the team, it's going to create problems. It's going to lead to failure in some point. And I hope for you, not complete and total failure, but it is possible. And maybe that's what stops your business from continuing on for 40 years or 100 years, or wanting to be passed down to your kids or whatever it might be. But this discord it leads to failure because this separation does not allow for the work that you need to get done. So I'm seeing it in faith circles, and I'm seeing it in government as well. And I am not all up on all the politics. I will put that out there. And I really don't like talking about it because my level of understanding is only so far. What has been killing me and just screaming in my head, so I had to share it with you because it's a business and leadership lesson as well, is once people are elected, obviously we have a 2-party system in the US. It's mostly a 2-party system, even in Canada, but it's a multiple party system in Canada. But either way, it's a lot of progressives and conservatives because the other 2 team up. But this division where all they're doing is ego seeking and trying to get to their winning. So they've won the election, but when they still come in going for the good of their party versus the good of the country, it creates this discord. So what is happening in the US right now is ridiculous. This fighting, this amount of just fighting that's happening in the streets, that's happening in the government buildings. It's just this breeding of distrust everywhere. And this is both parties. It's not helping the country. What we need to be doing is uniting around what is good for the people. The people elected you because you're going to do it the way that they want you to do it. That's the theory behind being elected. Once you're in there, and we've completely lost the plot on this, but once we're in there making laws, it needs to be for the good of the country. And we need to stay focused on that. And the same sort of thing is going to happen within your team. And I'm going to talk my Christianity thing because this gets me there too. As Catholics, There's fighting within the Catholic realms of Latin masters, traditionals, and, Novus Ordo and all this kind of stuff. And maybe that means nothing to non-Catholics on this, but there's fighting amongst that. And how is that helpful? And then as Christians as a whole, Protestants fighting against Catholics, it's like, same God, guys. I say this to my kid, like my 6-year-old started playing basketball and they all like to grab at the basketball. So I'm like, same team, same team. So, hey, same team, people. We need to get on the same page. But that discord is creating so much distraction that they are tactics of failure. And that's how you get your other side to fail, is divide them up. Get them so busy fighting or trying to get their way across the finish line that they're not paying attention to the person who's going to come in and steal their stuff or win the war or get the sale. If we're not in it for the clients as a business, so bringing it back to business, if you're not in it for the clients and the good of the company, like your company and your customers, that is just a recipe for disaster. So let's bring it back to business here. And this is conflict. Okay, so conflict is good in a team. Conflict, we want that, but not conflict that is discord. Like, we need conflict because we need to hash out the best solution and create the best strategy and hold each other accountable when you're not meeting goals and when you're not doing what you say you're going to do. But what we don't need is the whispers after the meeting that's saying, oh gosh, I can't believe we're doing this again. What we don't need is, this guy never does it right, and I'm just going to redo it on my own. He's going to do it his way, I'll do my way. That agree to disagree. These things are not helpful, because it's creating division and it's putting time, energy, emotions, discussions towards what's wrong instead of all these little nitpicky things versus how do we accomplish the system and the goal. Let's talk about why this is bad. I've talked a little bit about it. I'm going to get some actual details as to why it's bad. When we're focused on this fighting, when we're focused on this person is always doing something weird, or these little sidebar comments. So that little internal conflict, when we're focused there, we're not focused on the goal. And when we're not focused on the goal, we're not seeing the problems that might come up. We're not seeing the competition coming in. We're not seeing discord outside of the team. So what we want this to look like is, we want, especially for leaders of business owners and top leaders in your organization, what you really need is, you need your team, your management team, to be in it together. What happens a lot, and what I see a lot, and what I saw a lot when I was running a team, is people feel that they're elected as a representative. So government here again, they feel that they're in there representing their department. While there is a huge amount of trust that gets built by defending your team, you have to have a level of humility and a level of buy-in to the overall success of the company and the team, the big team, that you're willing to say, we can take this one. We'll step back on our mission right now because we need to put the forces over here. We need to make sure that we're all united around our big goal and our big strategy in order to accomplish what we said we were going to accomplish, in order to get across the finish line, and in order to win the war, or whatever it might be. This is necessary. This belief of, we and this top team are the team. We are the people that are carrying it out. Yes, you can defend your team still. I'm not saying like you undermine your own team, your other team, your departmental teams as well. But there has to be a level and an order of priority as to how things go. So when you're on that top team of the organization, that's the top priority. Every other team around it now is in support of the big team. This is my belief on politics. Once you're elected, same team. We need to look out for the good of the country, the good of the laws, and be working together to actual compromise, not just no because the other side said it's not my idea. Okay, so my politics again, getting very frustrated by that. So this idea of this first team, this has to be ingrained at all levels. People need to get that. That's what real sacrifice and real teamwork really looks like. I hear from a lot of people that I work with, and I fell prey to it myself when I was leading my team, is that you're like, we have a lot of strong personalities and we get along fine. We're good. We a little bit, rough here, but we're good. And we get through it. We figured out how to get through it. The thing is when you're spending time getting through it, that's a problem. When you're always like making consolations for one person on the team about this and making consolations for another thing about this. Now your team is working on and spending energy on things that are not important. It's important, yes, that everyone is well taken care of, but discord is not moving you closer to your goal. If it's distracting you from your goal, that's not what we need to have, and that's not what we want to have. So there are very obvious teams where there's like, oh my gosh, they do not get along at all. They are very, struggle with this, struggle with that. But it's those quieter ones that I get very concerned with because they don't see it as a problem. A lot of times they're saying, oh, we get along fine. I've had many clients say that to me. Oh yeah, we get along pretty good. And it's like, but those little quiet ones, those quiet fighting, they're going to do that thing again. I'm just going to sit back and watch it fail. I don't agree with that idea. Like that kind of stuff that's happening even inside someone's own head can be far more dangerous, because if you're not supporting or believing the direction that your team is going in, you're going to behave that way. You're going to maybe not work as hard to get that one goal done, or, be like, yeah, we did the meeting. Yeah. Our team is on board. We're doing the thing that we said we would do, but not really doing the thing. And again, that creates that distraction. So these are the things we want to watch out for. Agree to disagree. So if people are saying, all right, yeah, well, we'll agree to disagree. That's not okay. That is really bad. That is not bad. That is very bad. We need to call that out. We need to say, no, let's get on the same page. When we're the other things to look for is like you have a meeting and then 2 or 3 people go and do a little sub-bar meeting after the meeting. What that leads to again is more discord, but now discord with 3 people or 2 people. And what's really, really bad is when sometimes that little mini meeting after the big meeting changes the course. I've seen it. I've lived it. It happens a lot. It's like you agree to the one thing in the meeting, and then 2 or 3 people go and change the action plan. It's like, okay, well, you needed to say that in the meeting. So as a leader, that needs to get called out. That needs to be brought forth. And that meeting needs to happen again. Ideally, you're seeing it, because I know you're all very smart and perceptive people. And I know that when somebody doesn't really agree and support. We can feel that as human beings. Some people may be slightly better at it than others. So people with discernment might catch it more than other people. But when someone's not really bought in. They go, all right, sure, that's not bought in. Okay, so as a leader, and really if your team is functioning well, you need to call each other out on it too. So the leader has to set the example, because the leader always has to go first. So the leader needs to call it out and say, okay, you don't sound bought in. What's going on? What are you not feeling? Let's hash this out. Because when we can all get agreement, then that is where you get true magic, because everyone's bought in, fighting the same fight. They're going for the same goal. They realize that, this goal trumps all my other stuff that I'm doing. I might be trying to implement a new sales system over here in my sales team, but if we're not resolving the mechanical issues that are happening on the floor, I'm going to take some manpower from my team and put it over here, or take some hours that I had booked doing something or other and put it here onto this goal if that's what's needed to get the goal achieved. So it's that ability and that willingness to self-sacrifice for the greater good of the team. That's when your team has kind of made it. And that's where you get real magic, real power, real horsepower behind your team. I think there's a thought around it that's not as important as everything else, but it really is. Like when your team is melded well together, the impact you can have is huge, because you're actually going to move forward as a unit rather than leaving some behind. And you're going to accomplish bigger and greater things. And the overall well-being of your team is huge. I remember one of my favorite teams to work on was way back when I was an intern. And it was amazing. Like this team was known within the organization as like, ooh, they're really good. And I didn't fully understand it at the time. But looking back and reflecting a lot, what you saw is that there was a very clear expectation of behavior in that group. Everybody knew they needed to put the work in. There was a very clear goal around it. They weren't off chasing la la land things. And there was actually an instance when I was there just this short period of time where they were kind of chasing something, but I think it was directionally somewhere else. And it fell apart. Okay. So like this thing did not work out well because it wasn't around that same behavior and that same goal that the whole team was focused on. So there was a high level of support amongst that big team. There was a high level of work ethic, and there was a high level of like camaraderie in there. They got along well. They would go to lunches together. They would do golf tournaments together. Like it was good. And it was amazing. But there was very little like, I don't know if this guy's pulling his weight, but very little of that compared to the other teams that I had been part of in the organization and future teams that I'd been on. But it was really all around the expectations set by that leader. He was able to set a standard of we work hard and we push and we get to this goal and this is what we're going to do. So he held people accountable, but he was kind with it. I'm going to say respectful. He was kind and respectful, but supportive. And that's what you need to be. So I really want to dispel the myth that nice is what we're going for. It's not about being nice. Like I hear this a lot, especially early in training sessions and training groups that I do, is that we try to be nice to each other. And it's like, no, it's not about being nice. It's not about being nice. Respectful, yes. They're still a human being. They may have an issue with something. They may be struggling with something, but we don't have to be nice. Back to faith a little bit. Jesus wasn't always nice. We need to speak the truth. So we need to be honest about whether we support it or not. We need to be, explaining our concerns about it. We need to be willing to push hard or sacrifice. We need to be self-sacrificing amongst our team members and chasing after that same goal. So it's not about nice. And the closer the team is, the more real you can be. And that's, again, that measurement of a team. Think about what teams you've been on or groups you've been a part of where everybody's kind of worried about hurting someone's feelings. I see this a lot with volunteer groups and nonprofits and that sort of thing where everyone's like, oh, but they're working here for free because it's volunteer. We can still hold expectations with those kind of groups, and we should. And in fact, we'll get better results if we do. Better results for the thing that we want to do. If we're holding people accountable, we're saying, hey, you're a volunteer, I realize, and you still need to do the thing you volunteered to do. If you're not showing up or not doing the work when you do show up, that's not helpful. That's actually distracting because now, you were scheduled to do the thing and it didn't get done. Whereas somebody else could have been scheduled to do the thing and it would have gotten done. So now we're further behind than when we started. So it's not about being nice. It's about being assertive. It's about being on the same page and still treating others with respect. And when I say on the same page that of the overall goal, we can have different thoughts on how to achieve the goal. We just need productive conflict about how to achieve the goal. Okay, we both want the same thing, but you want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. Let's try to understand everyone else's perspective and come to a conclusion that works, that we can support it. And it's not necessarily always a compromise, because sometimes compromise just gives watered down nothingness, aka government work. So the government stuff again. But if we're focused on the overall success of the team and the overall success of the project that we're working on, we want the best answer. And if we can understand the other way of doing it and actually listen and not just listen to argue our point, we listen to understand, then we're going to get further. We're going to come up with the best solution for what needs to happen, because we got to move forward, right? We got to get there. I have a lot to say about this. All right. So what do you do? Let's get to some actionable things that you can do. If you have some Discord, and I mean, not even just blow up sort of Discord, like little, there's sub meetings happening, someone's just going along with it, or you have a weak link and everybody else knows it too. Okay. These are the things you need to do. First, you need to get to know each other. All right. Open up that. How do you like to work? Who are you? What's your background? What kind of, you can get to like belief systems, like what are your hangups on stuff, like maybe like, I think I've shared this on the podcast before. Feedback used to make me go, because of how I was raised, like feedback was bad. It meant you were bad. not that you just needed to tweak something. So get that out there in the open. Best ways to do that, start with a working genius workshop. Everybody share your geniuses, your frustrations, and figure out where everyone needs to be, how you can support one another, who's going to struggle with certain tasks, and then how do you actually help them. Those are huge for not judging others and properly supporting people. Next, you need to start to get to know each other better. So start doing some, discovery behind who, where are you from, that kind of thing. I call them trust exercises, but start getting to know one another and taking bigger risks. There's some great exercises that I've got from 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Also, there's a book, Leadership Plain and Simple, called And the Process FED. Fantastic exercises within that to help deepen this level. But you need to set it up properly at the beginning so that it's not scary, because, well, it will be scary, but you're not holding back through it. So you got to take slower steps to it. So start with the working genius. It's safe, it's easy, it's not super scary. Then move into some deeper trust building things. So don't try to jump into, sharing your, biggest fears and concerns and all your family drama right away. Start small, grow, build trust. Okay. So that trust level is huge, because that trust is what builds a safety to speak your mind, to rock the boat when you feel like you just don't want to rock it, to say the thing that might drive everyone crazy but needs to be said. The next thing you need to do is you need to align your expectations with one another about how you behave and how people work together. And what this can be values and understanding your values, but also about just team dynamics. How do we operate together? So start getting those out there. So once you start building some trust, we can start saying, it kind of really annoys me when you just bop into my desk and ask me that. Like, I need to focus. It distracts me. I lose so much time and I get so angry. If you could say that to someone and they stop doing it, like, number one, they probably aren't doing it to piss you off. They're doing it because that's just how their brain is working and how they want to do it, right? If you just tell them, hey, that drives me bonkers. Can we figure out a better way? Now they're not annoying you. You're not distracted, and you can come up with a better way to work together. And it just saves all that trust. So that's kind of expectations around team dynamics, but also really clarifying your values as a company and as a team and your overall kind of strategic direction. So getting everybody on that same page of clarity is absolutely huge to make sure everybody's in that same direction, focused on the same thing. You know what the number one goal is right now because you've talked about it, you've hashed it out, and everybody agrees. That is hugely important to stopping this like flitting all over the place and discord within the team that is like that underlying rough waters underneath the surface. Next, sort of aligned with that, is we need to align around a very specific goal. So we call it a thematic goal, but align around a very specific goal together. What are we actually trying to get achieved? When you start trying to achieve everything all at once, it leads to more discord, distraction, lack of resources, everybody just feeling like we're all over the map and I can't get anything done, and you can't prioritize things. So it creates a lot of tumultuous turmoil and is really unnecessary and actually slows you down rather than speeding you up by feeling like you're getting everything done at once. And the last thing is, as the leader, and really as the team overall, you've got to start mining out that conflict. So start to build some trust, but call out the conflict that you see. What that looks like is when someone's sitting back quietly, just say, hey, what are you thinking? They might be like a WD and maybe they need to think through it and they need to observe more, but invite them to speak, because sometimes they won't speak unless asked. Ask them, what do you think? Or if someone goes, see that thing on their face that's saying, I'm not sure, and invite that to come out. Sometimes they might not know why it doesn't work, but it doesn't work, and invite them to say it. So start mining for that. If you see a meeting happening after the meeting, call that out, right? That is not good. So call that out, say, hey, what's going on? Why wasn't that brought up in there? All right, let's get back together. Let's do this again, because clearly we didn't get everything hashed out. And the more you can stick to that, the first time you do it, people are going to be like, what? I just lost 2 hours while we talked about it the first time. Now I have to do it again. And it's like, yep, because you didn't do it, right? That's not nice, but it's good. And it's working towards the truth. It's working towards the goal. It's getting the things done that need to get done. And that's your job. that's why you are where you are and what you need to be doing to help your team get there. If you found this helpful today, please like it, share it with a friend, subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel, and go out there and leave a review. Let me know what's working. Let me know what's not working. Hopefully it's a 5-star review though. I will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.